Good evening, everyone. It is us. It's Manifesting Monday on Practical Magic. My name is Donna V. This is Tracy Locke and professional life coach Kim Mazzella. And we are finishing our conversation, which is never to be finished, actually, because this is so intense, on the archetypes and the archetype wheel. Welcome, everyone. It is February 15th, and I'm excited to be here.
Woohoo! I am so excited to see you, ladies. And Kim, I know you have a lot of work in front of you, so I'm going to talk a little bit so you can take a couple deep breaths because she's going to unload all this information. I just want to say thank you so much for taking us through this exercise, because I've gotten so many comments from people watching it that they are loving it, and I know Donna is too. We talked about it. We are loving it. It's so interesting and opens up even when you don't know a lot about it, just looking at it from the outside, you're like, oh boy, this opens a lot of doors. I can see a lot of questions that are getting answered by this. So I know it's a lot of work. I just want to say thank you in advance. And we're so excited for what you're going to impart.
Totally pumped.
Well, first I was going to mention, every time I see Donna, she has a new hairstyle. I love that. It's like, I actually thought, what color is Donna's hair today? And there it is.
Magenta.
But I would look through pictures of since I've known you, and it's like a different Donna every time. I love that about you. I just want to say I love that. It's got to be somewhere in your wheel. But I was actually like kind of looking at how in this book, everybody should buy this book. I mean, it's really such a great book. And in this book, it really gives you a lot of things that you can ask when you, like, once you get your chart done. There's a lot of answers it will give you about what's going on in your world and your life. And it's interesting because I did my chart a really long time ago. And as I'm looking at it, I'm like amazed at I really didn't understand the 8th house and Sage until I just read it from this book right now. And I'm like, oh, how did I miss that? But isn't all reading like that? Like, I read this book, A Course in Miracles, for 30 years, and all of a sudden I read something, I'm like,
clicks.
Yeah. So where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with the first house again and going over all the different pieces?
Sure. Whatever you think.
Whatever you want to do, I'm down for.
Yeah.
I thought we could talk about the houses more in depth, and I pulled them up a little bit more so that we could kind of go into a little bit more about what each house is and what Caroline Mace says about it. So in the first house, I have victim. What do you have, Donna? Angel. Okay. Oh, that's a good one. And what do you have, Tracy?
Pioneer. I have mine out too.
I love that, by the way.
Okay, I love your choice. So in the astrological chart, the 12 houses correspond to the 12 signs of the zodiac, which I talked about before. The houses of the archetypal wheel share some of the same characteristics, right? So they're not all the same, but the first house corresponds. The first house corresponds to your ego and your personality, right? In the astrological wheel, it is what sign is coming up, what sign is is on the horizon, because the astrological it goes all day long. So what sign is on the horizon when you're born? In this, it's more represents what your soul is. So your identity, your self-esteem, and awareness of your ego lay the groundwork for your life, right? So how you conduct yourself with others and whether you have the strength to make your way without needing to ask another's permission depends on how well you succeed in the many challenges that awaken your need to be in charge of who you are. So I have the victim, right? So I dealt with things, and when I always say, and you've probably heard me say it every time we've talked about it, when I first did this and I got the victim in the house of identity, I was so mad.
Sure.
I was really pissed off. So because I just did not feel like that. But you have to remember that every astrological sign, every archetype is neutral. So victim is the victor on the positive side, is the victim on the negative side, and working through that journey, right? So if you think about really who I was, or who I was kind of hidden, which is why I thought I'd get it in the 12th house, because that's the house of hidden things. Because for a long time, nobody knew I was a mess, but now everybody does. So
You're like, hello, my baby. Not anymore.
Not a person knew, but now everybody in the world knows.
But this was a long time ago, right? This was 20 years ago.
It was from 12 to 27 is when I was
Okay.
really a disaster. And so that was a few years ago.
Right. But when you're in the throes of it, Kim, because it's so interesting because that was in your first house, did you know it or did you feel like, I kind of have control or like?
I felt like it was something out of my control. I felt like it was something I remember the big book. Is that what it's called in AA? I can never remember.
Yeah.
There was a line that said, maybe you're this person who will like never recover. You're complete. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that me? I really thought it was so out of my control that I was never going to recover. I really just had kind of resigned to it, that I was not going to recover. But I did, thank God, because I persevered. Think about it, all of that, like being brought to my knees again and again and again, and really feeling like I was never going to recover. I could never get through this, being ashamed because I still had the same problem at 27 that I had at 12. And there was just so much mortification that went along with it because so much of it was hidden. And I mean, like I look back at who I was and I'm like, who did I think didn't know? Right. But everybody knew, I mean, pretty much towards the end, but I thought I was doing such a great job hiding what a mess I was. And then when I really finally did start to recover, all of that was the basis for everything I do right now. Right. I wouldn't have gone to, I talk about a year, I went to 42 churches in 52 weeks. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, I just kept trying a new church until I finally found a spiritual thing that spoke to me that I felt like I could relate to. I mean, I just went all over the place, just searching for somebody to save me is really what I was searching for. So I really did feel like a victim of a disease. And now I really realized that I was not, but I needed a better way. I didn't have the tools, right? I didn't have the tools. I didn't meet someone who until I was 25 or really 26 that really held me accountable for my own recovery, who showed me that I was accountable. And that person was the first person who was kind of mean to me about it. And it was kind of really helpful. That didn't feel sorry for me or say, oh, poor you, or, that really didn't buy into my victimhood. Right. It wasn't even tough love. It was just like, why are you making these decisions? Like, why are you making that decision? And I kept saying, well, the decision is out of my hands. Yeah, right. That's very true. Right. Why are you? And this person kept saying to me, but you're making that decision. I'd say, no, I'm under the control of a disease. And this person let me see that I had choice. And that's the only way you can have power, right? Is if you recognize that there is choice and that you do have a choice in every moment. So that's how really, truly. And if you think about my whole life and my whole personality is all about, what do I do all day long? I wake up, I meditate. Before I go to bed, I meditate. I read A Course in Miracles. I share A Course in Miracles. I talk about it with people. I write blogs on it. I make videos on it. So if you think about my personality, it is very much about overcoming victimhood. So if you spend any time with me, that's what my life is about. So because the first house is such a big house, it's what everybody thinks you're about, right? It took me a while to like get my ego out of the way and recognize that the victim in that house was quite a blessing. So who wants to talk about their first house? What they learned?
I just have a question for you regarding that first house, because you're so the opposite now. You're a complete victor rather than a victim. But at the time, do you think people thought of you as a victim, meaning around you? Or I know you said it was mostly hidden. But it's interesting
that I was seen as scattered and a mess and all over the place. I had like 5 different, I went to college and then I went to a different college and then I changed my major and then I changed my major again. And then I doubled, I couldn't sustain anything. I had relationships and I went through relationships like water. I just couldn't sustain anything. It wouldn't pay my bills. My parents would bail me out. I mean, I think everybody thought of me as kind of a mess.
Okay, that's because you're so the opposite. So I only know you as the opposite. So for me to think of you as a mess is like I can't even conceptualize that. I mean, I understand that everyone has a history and everyone changes, and that's the beauty of it. So that's so exciting to me that I know you in this way, where you're such a strong victor, that's exciting to everybody else, you know?
Yeah, and it really did make my life. And this is
I just want to acknowledge quickly, if I may take a moment, because I'm seeing some new names in the chat, and I just want to say thank you for being here. We are here every Monday night from 8 to 9, live on Facebook and YouTube and Periscope. And we do love to take some questions tonight. We're going to try after. I just want to acknowledge this because I think it's beautiful what you're saying. I'm a parent that loves a few in recovery, and recovery is beautiful. Talk about it, and anonymity is killing a great many. I have to say I agree with that, having people in my life, and I love the fact that you can be so open about it now, Kim. And I know that to some, anonymity is important in the beginning stages until they're comfortable. And maybe you could speak to that. And one last thing I'm going to bring up is, are you familiar with David Goggins? You could take that in whatever order you would like. And then I'm going to ask everyone in the chat to understand that we have a tight hour tonight that we have to get through. So I want to say I appreciate that you're here and that you're watching, and we will try to get to your comments by the end of the show. Thank you so much.
I want to say this, that even though I don't use anymore, I still have what I call that bully brain, right? So that brain that tells me I need something to make me feel better. And part of my teaching of other people, when anybody works with me, I always say, I am on this path with you. I am not a guru. I am not, I do the work I teach. That's why I think so many people are attracted to the work I do. I'm doing it every day. I'm doing it along with you. And so part of my teaching is to understand, like I explain to people constantly, that I'm a student also. So I have spent my life looking for tools to make me feel better. And when I use them, and when I find them that work, the ones that work, I share them immediately. So that's how I got to such a big toolkit. But I read something in A Course in Miracles the other day that I was like, how have I missed this? And it's, where was it? It said, let us be glad that what you believe, you will see what you believe, and that it has been given you to change what you believe. So here's what that means. It means that what isn't working in your life, you're going to see it. You're going to be able to see it. And it's been given to you so clearly because you can change it. So, so I don't know who David Goggins is, but I love teachers, and I'm constantly embracing new ones. I'm very, very, very knee deep in Joe Dispenza right now, which I was talking about.
Right. He's great.
But I do know Greg Braden and Dr. Bruce Lipton. I like the scientists. But I do like, Marianne Williamson was my first teacher, and then she went all political on me. But I still love her. And then, I was always very into Dr. Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson. I've read A Course in Miracles for 30 years, and I still read it every day. So I do what I teach. And that is why I talk about where I was. And I'm still there sometimes. My first instinct when real drama occurs in my life, when real pain happens, is to open the refrigerator. And then I look at it and I go, and I close it back, thank God. Or maybe go online, because I had other addictions after that, and like shop. But
right.
Thankfully, that's not what I do anymore. So
yeah.
Well, that's really exciting. All right, Donna V, your first house. You're the
angel. My first house, I have Angel, which I was really thrilled to get, and I appreciated that that's what, I was able to pick. For me, I feel I identified when I read the description of the angel in the fact that it, like in the fairy godmother, because I definitely do love to help people, and I like to make other people's dreams or wishes come true, even in something that happened today. And Tracy, can you lower your volume just a touch? Thank you. So
you know what? It's not me, because I'm literally on the first bar.
Well, then it's all right.
Maybe it's me. I'll lower mine. I did.
Okay. That's all. Yep. So
I did mine just recently,
because I could hear myself. Sorry. So one of the things, like even today, I had to go pick something up from someone that I was buying because I wanted to get something off a swap meet, and the woman that answered the door with her 2 kids, like you could see she looked frustrated. And I knew, like, for me, I know it sounds like strange to some people, but for me, I felt like I was put in that position not just to buy whatever it is because she needed the money, but like I looked at her, I don't know her, and I said to her, just take a breath, Mom, you're doing great. And I got in my car and I had books that I had picked up from someone to read on Storytime. And I instantly recognized that there were books I couldn't read on Storytime that I was going to donate anyway. So I wrote the woman a note. I said, this may sound strange, but I'm dropping books off because it looks like you need a distraction. She's trying to cook. She's got one kid on her hip. I just identify with that. So like for me, the angel was, I've often felt in my life, I'm not saying that I am completely angelic by no means, which I love because it's neutral, but I definitely love the fact that I have felt that I've a connection to a higher power my whole life. I have felt that people have come to me for messages of either hope or like love. And it's something I'm really, really comfortable with. Thank you, Mike Mazzella. And I just feel like it's something in a non-egotistical way that I felt comfortable even picking.
I think it's great for you in the first house because when I've always felt like you're someone who always tries to bring the best to every situation, and you also always see the best in people too, and you always want to lift up people. I think you spend a lot of your life lifting up people, so I totally agree with Angel for you in this because I think of this as, you know, almost like it should be in the center and your life kind of revolves around it, right? So like this is kind of like, even though all the spokes are important, I think that how you're seen, your ego personality, and how you identify in the world is really the first house. And so that makes perfect sense to me. I really do.
Now, what's the opposite of that? Obviously not a devil, but like, what would it be?
Well, the opposite, the shadow of the archetype is people that claim to be in touch with angelic guidance for the sake of control or ego enhancement. So
Okay.
maybe the way I read that is you have a lot of people that are snake oil salesmen that will use it for bad. Like that's, I mean, Kim could bring more light to it than I could, but the way that I read it and identified with that is someone, yes, actually, from a biblical perspective, would be the shadow angel frequently associated with Satan or Lucifer, but it also is just someone who is using it, saying that they're good, and they really have, you know, bad intentions.
So,
Right.
Kim, my question is then this: I know we're getting really into depth here, and I will probably end up talking about this again. But so, when you get that in your first house, because it's your base, just like the root chakra, I know it's something that you have to really be aware of. Should you be like, meaning? Donna, have you ever seen any of the shadow side of that come out in yourself?
Of course. I mean, there's definitely been times in my life when, you know, why do you think it was so important when we talked about the 4 agreements? I wanted to be impeccable with my word because will I say that I saw it come out of myself? I know that I have a side where if someone pushes me the wrong way, I will maybe defend myself in a way that I could have chosen not to. I don't know if that's what you mean.
No, I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm asking because I do think it's really important that we talk about that there's both sides. For instance, the reason why, because Kim, if you get victim, it's whatever you get in the house, you don't have to be bummed about it. You know, like some of the houses you get, you're like, oh man, I'm the victim, whatever. But that's not necessarily a negative thing. And I just want to make sure we talk about it. And I just have a question. There's both sides of that coin. And that I guess I would assume, and I'm assuming, but I'm asking. So you have to be aware of both sides so that if you see yourself sliding into that, right? Because you'd like, you know.
To me, the angel is someone who also wants to appear as perfect. You know, like the shadow side would be someone who wants to appear as perfect and innocent when they're really not. Like there could be, and it could even be when you don't know you're doing that, right?
Right.
Like when you're just like, because sometimes our shadow are things we don't even see. But I don't think that's you, Donna.
Sure.
Just so you know.
I was going to say, if you've ever seen me perform comedy, you know I have a shadow side. Okay,
that's true. I forgot about that.
Well, I mean, I do story time in the morning. Can do an hour completely clean and sweet. That is me. But when I go out for comedy, I take the sugar coating off, and I may be a green apple.
I love you.
I've seen her get mad at the audience, ladies and gentlemen. You do not want Donna to be mad at you.
No.
Right. And so if you're going through this and you see like, and because, you know, gambler is something that when I read it, at first when I saw the word, I didn't resonate with it at all. And then when I started reading it, I'm like, oh no, I think this is me.
Right. You're like, ooh.
Right. My dog. But truly, if you think about what a gambler is someone who's willing to put themselves in that uncomfortable situation, right? So that's a really good thing. I'm willing to stretch myself. I'm constantly growing. That's why I do this. I mean, I share because I kind of learn stuff, and I'm like, oh, I got to tell other people how to do this, right? So the gambler could be, unfortunately, the gambler has been kind of painful for me a lot in my life, but it's also been the greatest gift, a great gift too, because it's helped me to grow.
Yeah.
Discuss
What the pioneer has to say.
Well, I think it's perfect because I see totally both sides of it. I'm assuming, again, I'm using that word a lot, but I'm assuming what the other side of pioneer would be. I love to try new things. I love when people say it can't be done because then it's even more of a reason for me to try to do it. Mm-hmm. I love putting the work in, but sometimes I make things really hard for myself. Like I put myself in scenarios where it's like, do you really need to reinvent the wheel again? So I feel like that could be this shadow side of a pioneer where you're constantly putting yourself in scenarios that you have to kind of keep trudging through. Like, we got to break new ground. We got to keep it going. We got to make it happen. So yeah, I mean, the good part of pioneer, I definitely see, but the other side of pioneer, I definitely see as well. And that's one thing I definitely have to check in myself is that urge to constantly keep going. And I have the feeling of like, if you're not working hard at it, it's not getting done. Who's doing it if you're not doing it? It's like, right. So that's one of the parts of pioneer that I'd like to master of, hey, it'll get done. You don't have to be out chopping wood at like 9 o'clock at night. You can sit down.
Especially because this is a manifesting station, right? So we want to manifest things. This isn't, Marianne Williamson used to always say, this is a course in miracles. It's not a course in hard work, right? It's not a course in getting it done and getting it a lot of work. It's a course in miracles, right?
Right.
So when you want to manifest something, you want to bring in all the energy from the universe to give you momentum to get going, to get going forward. So, okay. Do you want to talk about the second house and what it's all about?
Absolutely.
So this is, for those of you who don't know, who are new, we're working out of this book by Carolyn Mace, and the name of the book is called Sacred Contracts. And I read this book, I don't know how long ago, maybe my kids were babies. And I even have the CDs. I have it on CD. That's how long ago.
I have it on cassette tape, if anyone knows.
You can only listen to it in your car.
That's true. So
I'm going to put the link up for the page that we use in case anyone's interested.
That's a great idea.
In the comments. And it is the appendix of that's going up. I don't know.
So the second house is the house of life values. So I had said last week, this is like represents Taurus. It's very similar to the astrological house that it represents Taurus. And so what are life values? It represents that which you value and hold dear. In terms of energy, the second house represents the next stage in the formation of the self. Now that I'm here, what's mine? What do I want out of life? What power is essential to my interacting with physical life? This house represents your appreciation for the physical nature of life, the objects of this earth that appeal to your ego and spirit, that which you need most to feel grounded in the world. So it also represents how you use money, because in astrology, it is the house that's considered the house of money. But it's your money. It's your own personal money, not other people's money, like the 8th house. So I have another fabulous, and it's funny because this placement has taught me more about myself and has made me grow more than anything else. The Saboteur, right? So, and that's why I don't know if anybody saw the post I made today that said the one thing that you dream about is the thing that you fear most, right? Because when we want something, when we literally whatever we've come here to do, we're terrified of, right? Whatever we desire, we tend to be afraid of. That's why manifesting a parking space is so easy, but manifesting, your dream job takes a little bit more time. They're both the same according to A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles says there's no level of difficulty in order of difficulty in miracles. They're all the same. And
Wow.
Abraham Hicks says that you can manifest a button as easily as you can manifest a castle. But because there's fear, because it represents me, right? So if you think about it, what do I value? What do I want? Every single time I wanted to get my career off the ground, I put an obstacle in the way, right? I was always putting obstacles in the way of my dream, my marriage, my this, my children, my this. And now I'm finally at the point where I'm like, oh, I got to really look at this.
Right.
So not that I haven't been doing my career for like 17 years, but what I mean is really getting to the place that I want to get. Now the good thing about the saboteur, and everybody has it in their chart. So if you're new watching this, there are 4 archetypes that we all have: saboteur, child, prostitute, and victim. So the saboteur in the second house of values is whenever I want something, I tend to sabotage it. How it will work for me in a positive way is I'm very clear on when I want something, I got to do a little more energy work around it, maybe than the next guy. You know what I mean? I've got to really do the work, the energy work. And I think I was given that because I was meant to teach it. I really do.
Right.
So like, part of my life's purpose, because I do love teaching it so much, that they said, let's give her this energy to trip herself up all the time so she could stop tripping herself up and then teach other people how to do it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So who wants to go next?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have networker as mine. My second house is networker, which I love because I love,
Makes sense.
yeah, I love trying to put people together. I love people. I was always that way as far as in high school and college. I was always the one who was friends with all the different groups, and I would get people together from the different groups, and kind of like a diplomat where I would, I love to be the intermediary in between. And so the negative side of that, I don't know. I don't know what the negative side of that one would be. The shadow side. I didn't say negative.
Other focused, and well, let me look it up.
Yeah. No. I bet it could be that. Yeah. That you're not focusing on yourself and you're constantly putting out fires or trying to help others in a way that you're not exactly focusing on what your situation is. So that makes sense as well. But that definitely makes sense to me. And I have gotten every kind of job and situation that I've been in. When I really think about it, the big, great jobs, with the exception of my first job, which was, well, I shouldn't say that. Every job that I've gotten, it's been through help, meaning someone has helped me in a crazy, fortuitous way, and it's led me to like this amazing opportunity where they just come out of the woodwork, and it's like, wow, how did that job come literally out of the woodwork? And it's through somebody that I know saying to me, "You'd be great for this," and me not even knowing what they're talking about. But then weeks later, that's where I ended up. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but go ahead, Donna.
No, did you look it up? Because I saw it, Kim.
I did, but it doesn't really have a negative side. So look it up again. But one of the things
that the shadow networker merely uses others for personal gain.
Yeah.
I haven't been great at that. If that's I need to work on my shadow side.
Here's what I love about it.
So you don't. You're funny.
If you think about the second house and money, your money comes to you through your networking. That's really what it's telling you.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
My money comes to me when all I need to do is get the heck out of my way, right? Like that, and it's really true because stuff comes easily to me once I just like overcome myself.
Right. That totally makes sense. Absolutely.
Right.
No, you do not use a shadow, or you use it in a positive way. I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't. Yeah. I'm definitely not that person that feels the need to use someone as far as their station in life, or if they have connections. I'm actually not about that. And when I was in LA, that was a problem because everyone is like that. Everyone is like, "Oh, who do you know?" And they can introduce you to somebody. And I was always like, I don't feel comfortable getting introduced to somebody like that. That feels cheesy and like, so it's an interesting thing. When you see it, you know it. When you see somebody who's doing that way, I definitely am acutely aware of that.
I want to just mention something about that. I think that we're going into new energy. I really do. And I think that kind of backstabbing and networking stuff, that's not going to fly as years go by, because I really honestly think more and more people are learning about manifesting and energy work. And I think that we're not at the tipping point yet. I mean, but I remember when I first started talking about A Course in Miracles, when I would start reading it and people were like throwing holy water on me. They really thought I was going straight to hell. And
I love it.
I mean, and now, like, most people still don't know what it is, but if they know what it is, and like, that, okay, right? Like, people are, I think we're getting more, and what I think is going to happen is I do think there's eventually going to be a tipping point, because I think we're going through a spiritual revolution, and we have for a really long time, like 100 years, but I honestly think that it's going to get faster and faster and faster. So I think that kind of, eventually we're going to get to the point where we're going to stop doing stuff like that. I really do think the light workers are going to rule.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, just maybe not in our lifetime, but eventually.
I think so too. I do. I think it's
more of us.
Yeah. All right, Donna V.
So my second house is the Lover, and the way that I identified with that is because of the passion that I have for what it is that I do. So it really kind of is exciting to me that it falls in the house that it does fall in, because that is one way where no matter what's going on and what's thrown at me, I'm still able to, I identify with it in the fact that I'm still able to keep going through and working, because luckily, even with like today going in and having my heat not working now in the salon, I still will go to work and love it, and I'll just wear an extra layer. But so that is what I identified with it in that way. You can definitely tell me what you think, Miss Kim Mazzella, but
well, I love that it says anyone who exhibits great passion and devotion. That's the Lover. And so I think that if you think about what you do, like so much of what you do is giving, right? All day long, you are constantly devoted to lifting up those around you. Yeah. And so even your job, like your day job, that you make people feel better, right? You lift them up. So your job is really to like you passionately go out, and you're definitely always trying to uplift. So right. I love that. I absolutely think this is a great placement. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because in the book, there's the shadow lover manifests in exaggerated obsessive passions. You haven't had that, so that's good.
That would be pretty intense. Like when I read that, I'm never going to be that obsessive. I mean, maybe I'll change my own hair color, or the destructive effect on one's physical or mental health. I don't know what that would be, but I didn't identify with that part. Thank God.
But you know what? Recognize that shadow's there. You're lucky that you haven't had to step into it. What a blessing. Same with like the Pioneer and all those other things. You know, it's there, but you know, it's kind of like, you know, you can have cake in your refrigerator and you can eat a piece and it's really good. But if you know it's there, you take care of yourself. You eat a piece here.
Right. Unless it's cherry pie around Donna V. And
that lasted 2 days.
Was that the thing that was eaten like that?
Yep, I ate the center out first.
In like an hour.
It was amazing. It was not a very large pie.
It was still impressive, Donna V. It was very impressive.
Thank you very much. All right.
Yeah, I had trouble seeing that too. I was like, I don't know how to fix that. I can't fix it.
No, but I'm done. But the thing is like, but I'm not a seeker of the cherry pie. That's where I'm okay.
You're like, you manifested that cherry pie. Remember?
I did. I manifested that.
I know. I was impressed.
And I have cake and cupcakes and candy, and I haven't really touched it.
Good girl.
Yeah.
You've got your Lover in check. Okay. So you guys ready to go to the third house? Because we did 35. We are not going to do.
We're definitely going to have to do another week of this, because this is way too amazing.
And it's so exciting, though. I've just gotten so many comments, just so you both know, regarding this wheel, because again, the important part that people need to know that are tuning in is, Kim, I think this is a really cool fact that we didn't mention today, but you said you did your wheel years and years and years ago, and it's still a map to your whole life, right? Yeah. So this is not something that's like an astrological thing where you read it 1 week and then it changes next week. This is like the spinal cord of your whole life. Once you understand these, it's like a map to your whole life. So I do think it's worth taking the time and for people to understand what each house means and to do their wheel with us. So I do think we need to take the time. But go ahead into that third house.
And if you're going to pick your archetypes, make sure that you really read through them all, because there's a lot of them. And you read through them all and you'll think to yourself, you don't want to pick an archetype that is just something that you read the word because I never would have picked gambler. I'm telling you, when I read it, even when I hear the word, I'm like, that's not me. But when I read it, and then I kept having to go back to it, and I kept having to go back to it, I was really annoyed. But it's something that I've had to work through. A lot of my archetypes, and I guess it's because I came from such a difficult place. And when I did this, I was in my 30s, and I'm in my 50s now. But I definitely was a wounded person who healed, right? So aren't we all on some level? But because I all of those wounds defined me, but defined me so much. So many of them worked out to be what I do now for a living, right? Like, so were they so bad? Like, I don't know. I think that I love all this kind of stuff. I love the study, and I'm always finding new teachers. What's awesome about what I do is I got to keep finding new teachers, and there's so many out there. So all of you who are teachers or think you might be teachers or think you might have something to tell someone that could be helpful, please put it out there, because someone needs you, right? Like, so if you're watching this and you think you have something that could help someone, put it out. I can't tell you what my first video felt like. It took me 3 days to do it. I was so sick to my stomach. And how many people have watched them? So
yes.
Anyway, you want to go to the third house?
Yes,
Third house.
Okay, so third house is self-expression and siblings. So once you establish your values, you move into self-expression, how you present what you are and what you hold dear to the world. The third house, aligned with Gemini, an air sign that rules communication, represents your capacity to express yourself as an individual as well as to your siblings. So in this, remember, your siblings aren't just the people that if you don't have siblings, they say it could be the people that were very important to you. Your siblings eventually in life could become your children. They could become your father, your parents, the people that you deal with the most, the people that you have to communicate with on a daily basis is, I really think that what they mean. It says siblings should not be interpreted only as your biological family members, but those who aid your growth, because the energy of your third house involves both your sense of self-esteem and your self-expression. It resonates with the third and fifth chakras. It contains the lessons inherent in learning about the causes and effects of your choices. So mine is guide or mentor. I think they're two, and I just decided to meld them as one because I couldn't really decide. So I thought it was really interesting because one of my archetypes is actually communication. And I thought that I would get communication in the communication house, but it didn't. I got guide and mentor. And, this was before I even really was a teacher that I got that. But I just was, because for such a long time, I was always I was a seeker, right? And I was a seeker and a teacher. And so to me, how I communicate is through guidance, which I think in the shadow side could be, just letting you know, where that goes wrong is when people don't want to be taught. They just want to hang out.
So not understanding the lesson that life is trying to give to you over and over. Would that be the shadow side of that?
Yeah. I mean, because and the other thing that would happen to me is in relationships, like I always ended up a teacher, right? Okay. I always ended up a teacher. Or a teacher with a pupil that didn't want to be taught, so it's something that just, and so one of the things I really learned through having this in this archetype of communication is how to look for balance in relationships and just allow myself. I'm still a guide, sort of, but I found a partner who's also a guide. So that's really very helpful. So we're kind of balanced.
That's great. Now, growing up in your friend group, were you always the guide? Were you like the one that people would come to advice-wise and stuff like that, as far as relationships and just whatever may be happening?
Yes. I mean, I was always intuitive. So my intuitive voice wasn't so great when I was really in the throes of my addiction, but I was you can't escape yourself. So right. I think I was always very intuitive, but not as intuitive as I am now, obviously. And I think that I was always a mentor. So yes, I definitely think it was so a part of who I was. I was the kid of my siblings that would be like, that's really not a good idea. Let's not do that.
Oh, I got it. Right. The one, the voice of reason. That makes sense. That makes sense, though. It
And that's the
absolutely
shadow
is.
side. People sometimes don't want the voice of reason, but you can't turn it off.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really funny because I also am the straight one, right? So like when I mean straight, I'm the straight guy. Like I had comedian siblings and I attract comedian friends because I'm really the one that loves to laugh. So if you want to do your comedy on me, I'm going to laugh at
Do your
it.
comedy on me, though.
I love it. That's great. You're the quintessential straight man. We all need one. That's so good.
I told Tracy about the time that we were on a retreat and you were like, shh, we have to go to bed. And when we went, instead of namaste, the light in me salutes the light in you. I was like, Kim is saying the light in me turns off the light in you. Now we have to go to bed. I'm like, that's so funny because you're the mature one.
She's the camp counselor telling you to shh.
I know, right? To the kids that are like having so much fun and I'm like throwing the water on the fire.
You remind me, I'll never forget, I was at Girl Scout camp and we were up like that, just exactly that. We were probably like 9 or 10 and we were in the tent. And the one girl, we're up, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the one girl says to me, now we're going to sing Kumbaya. And I'll never forget, the counselor opens the thing, she goes, like hell you will. And I was like, okay, I guess we ought to go to sleep. Whoops.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's
Kumbaya and hell in the same sentence. That's alpha, right? That's like beginning and end right there.
I know, I thought it was great. All right, Donna V, what's your third house?
My third house is
siblings.
Father, which
makes total sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So where I really identified is okay, I have my notes here. It combines a talent for creating and initiating with the ability to oversee others, whether a biological family or a group of creative people. So it's interesting because we've already talked about this before. If you've ever watched it, the show before, rather, you know that I'm a business owner. I have a salon. I got into it with my passionate, like, lover in my house of creativity, but yet somehow I evolved into a boss, and I never wanted to be a boss, but it's just a role that I take. And I know that it could be type A personality. We could sit there and make jokes about it and say, oh, it's control. I'm sure there's part of it that is, and it also comes from a place of knowing with the father archetype, it's caring and guidance. It's also feeling that, I want to take care of my people. I want to take care of who's around me and make sure that everyone else is okay. It is a very exhausting role because I take it.
If I'm frank with you guys,
a little too seriously, but it's not something that because I want to make sure everybody's okay. I have that with everything I do, whether it's my family, the salon, comedy, producing shows. And like, that was it. But I love getting people together and making these little family groups because I feel like that's something I'm good at, until, of course, in the 11th house where I sabotage it. But I mean,
but that is the truth. What I love is it says how once you establish your values, you move into self-expression, how you present what you are and what you hold dear to the world. So what you are and your self-expression is really through being a father, because that's kind of how you are to everyone, the protector, and that's how you kind of communicate. That's how you connect. That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. And it's wild because I love being a mom, like, so much so. But like, when it comes to, again, I'm sure my daughter can hear me. I used to cook, but it was out of like need to feed. Like, sure. I'm not a Susie homemaker kind of parent, but I definitely am. I'll plunge the toilet. I'll fix something. Like, I definitely identified more with the father side than the mother. I know it's neutral, but to me, there's a very clear, yeah. I just put
I think also as the father, as the protector.
Protector.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of the role, the protector. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Would you have Tracy Locke?
Wait a minute. She's the one at the show that like rigs up the sound system. She's like taking speakers up and down. She's like figures out how to pack the car. We're all like, what the heck is going on? She's like a complete roadie. I love it. No, but that's what I mean. You know, like when she produces shows from soup to nuts, it's all taken care of. It's all done. It's very caring, like in a fun way. You're the mom and the dad because you're the one that like would pack the car, but then would pack a nice little write
a note to everybody with
with a note and a little heart.
Bill. I'm like, thank you so much. I love you. XOXO. Great.
And she would like give you an envelope with, you know, your pay in it, and it sprinkles on it when you opened it up, and it was sweet. Meanwhile, everybody else just hands you the money like a drug deal. So there is caring. It's really caring.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too. Trust me. I got in my third house clown, which is just so appropriate on every level, because that's how I absolutely handle every situation with humor, and that's actually how I got to where I am as far as being a comedian. But ever since I was little, I was always the one joking around, but in the way of trying to make situations better. For instance, I always played sports, and it would be like we'd be doing horrible 2 days where it's like 110 degrees and everybody be bitching and moaning and like, and I would just make jokes to try to keep everybody laughing so that the scenario was bearable. And my one friend said to me, and it was such a compliment to me, she was like, you could have fun at a tax audit. Like, I don't know, but you just make things fun. So awesome. I take that as a compliment. And then obviously the shadow side of that is I don't take things seriously when I'm supposed to, and can take the joking around way too far. Where it hurts people's feelings, and that's not intentional, but it's like just keep pushing that envelope, and so the best way as a clown, the best defense is a good offense, right? So if you're constantly joking, you're constantly making fun of, then too much information of your own is not getting out there, right? And that's been my MO my whole life. People are like, "Oh my God, you know everybody," but I feel like we don't know anything about you.
You know what's so funny? It's so funny because I would try to have conversations when I first met her. I was just really intrigued by her life. And then I got to realize being her friend it's what you do. And you would know you probably know the last 4 digits of my social. And I'm like, I don't even know where she's really from. I really don't.
But, you know, I know someone else very well that has that same thing. It's like, I don't want to deal with the hard stuff of life, so I'm just going to make a joke about it. Right. I mean, I don't think you don't deal at all, but what I do think is that when the going gets tough, you're going to make a joke so that, you know, it's almost like protects you, gives you time to come up with an answer, or I think that it could be really positive if you need that time. And also, I do think that there is something to be said about discretion, right? Like, not everybody needs to know everything about everybody all the time. And some people don't feel safe having all their stuff out. I think that as a teacher, I've just gotten in the habit of just like really letting people know like the worst thing, because it helps the people I'm helping, because you know, when people are like, well, you don't know what I did, and I'm like, oh, you have no
idea what I'm capable of. Well, also too, I think it's a power dynamic. It's a subconscious power dynamic, because like one of the things that I was famous for in college is like at a party, I would be the one up on the speaker dancing. Everyone thought I was like drunk and like a maniac, but I never had a drink. I never drank. I never really got into, I don't like the taste of alcohol. So they thought I was drunk, but I was stone cold sober. I was just having a great time. But in that same moat, everyone will tell you everything because they're drunk. And then you're sober. So you're like, that one said this and this one said that. And it's all in the back of your mind. So you like this loaded arsenal in case you would need it, right? And I'm saying subconsciously because I didn't go in there being like, oh, I'm going to get all this information about people. But inevitably that would happen, where I would walk out of a party and I'd be like, I didn't know that information. Now I do. But like, it wasn't used in any malicious intent, but it was always like a catalog, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, do you find that as you get older that you are better with the clown? Like, you're able to Yeah.
not make
Yeah.
everything a joke. It depends on who you talk to. Yeah, I still do a lot of like, it's always funny and fun. And yeah, that's my natural go-to is that is everything is jokey. But
there might be times when that is beneficial to everybody, especially if it gets
Yes.
too heavy in a room and
yes,
everybody's like upset, and then you make a joke and you bring levity to a situation. That's a beautiful thing, right?
right.
I want to say this. Being a friend of yours, I think that you know when to use it. I know other people that have that in their lives. I'm not going to mention names, that they don't even know how to have a regular conversation.
Oh yeah, no,
But
I don't think I use right.
No, you have a balance of that. I've worked
Right.
with you in many situations, and I will say that you will go to bat for someone. I've seen
definitely.
it. I've been on the side of it where you've done it for me. But like, I think you have good balance. So I don't know you when you were young, when maybe you did it at maybe inappropriate times. Oh, excuse me, like that. Like that was wild. But the truth is that anytime I've ever seen you do it, it's not like you're doing it where it's not good.
Yeah, you know how I would equate it? I do it like that. So if we were getting attacked by like a dragon, I would tell you girls, run. You guys run. I'll distract him and I'll like joke around with him and that's how I usually were for my friends growing up. Like if we got in trouble, I'll talk us out of it. You guys just run. I'll get us through it. And so yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. So I have a question. We have 10 minutes left. Are we doing another one, or are we going to, do you want to go into the fourth house?
Yeah, let's do it. I think we have time to do it.
She has to be done by 9 p.m.
But that's okay.
We're going to make it happen.
3 minutes apiece.
So, the fourth house, if you remember last week, we discussed it, and it corresponds to the sign of Cancer. And so it is, when I think of the fourth house, the fourth house is really the home. And so what does the home mean? So we know that the home is where you feel comfortable. The word home has many meanings. Where is the explanation for it? The archetype that resides in this house is one that has the leading influence on the emotional energies associated with all that represents home to you, right? What means home to you? Because, home isn't a house. It's what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel like you are on solid ground, right? So I always think of Cancer as 4 legs of a table. Someone who's a Cancer usually is on solid ground. These are not people that are just going to get up and start a fight. They're going to think it through. They want their family to feast at the table, because if you know are you a Cancer? Anybody here?
No, but Cancers are home bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, they're home bodies. They have a nice solid legs of the table because they want their family eating on their table.
Well, they're also a crab, and they carry their home around with them.
Yeah. So what makes you feel like you're on solid ground? What makes you feel comfortable? And I have, in this very strange position, the gambler. So
roll the dice.
And it's like I can't sit still for too long. And it's really funny because if you look at my life, like the first 20 years of it, I moved all the time, right? I say I'm always changing things. Let me try this person. I'm going to date this person. I'm going to do this thing. It's like I was constantly running to the next thing because that would make me feel better. And so, the positive of the gambler is I'm willing to take risks. I have to say that the gambler has been more painful to me than not painful to me in most of my life. But when I really look at the gambler, there is this courageous part of me that will do, like, I create courses from nothing, right? Like I read so much stuff, and I am so intuitive, and I've just tried it all and tried every tool, and I'll create a course out of it from beginning to end, 12 weeks. And I test it on people, and then I have to redo it because it doesn't work the way I thought it would. So then I retest it. That's courage. Like, that takes courage just to create something from nothing and be willing to try it and be told because I test everything that I do. It didn't really work for me, or that doesn't work, or that does work. So I think the gambler is someone who's willing to really push to the edge of their comfort zone And, you know, because that's where everything we want is, right?
Right.
Like at the edge of our comfort zone. So in many ways, it's been very painful to my home, but for also it's been, it's, you know, there is a very good inherent in it. So I wish I didn't have it in that position, but I do.
And very much like you, fourth house, saboteur, completely makes sense. Yeah. So very much like you, Kim. So it's constantly moving around, trying something new, trying different. It's got to change it up. Let's make it exciting. This is getting boring. This is getting same old, same old. But again, at the same time, then there's no stability as far as routine, right? So the routine, for the longest time, I was always like, I am not going to be this routine person that does the 9 to 5. I can't do it. It's not me and my personality, blah, blah, blah. But as I get older, I definitely, like to your point, it's like the pain that has caused is something that you have to reckon with. You have to really look at it and go, okay, what are you doing? What are you actually trying to get away from? Right. So the saboteur in that house makes complete sense to me as far as setting up a home.
Right. Well, it looks like you're working through it. So good for you.
I'm trying desperately. But every once in a while I'm like, that looks, I would also say like a saboteur, I guess, for home is always like the grass is greener thing. That is a huge, huge problem for me. And I don't mean relationship wise. It's like what if I did that? That would like, it's that feeling like a spider where you're like, ooh, that is exciting, but so is that, but so is that, but so is that. And so rather than concentrate on one thing, I want to do it all. Right. And that's where the saboteur for me comes in.
Right. Especially once you get a little older and you realize that there's nothing out there that's exciting. It's all in here. Like really, that's what manifesting is like getting it so exciting in here, and that you could just dream all the time and you don't have to leave your house or sell it.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. I got engineer. So for me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm like the father is always fixing stuff, but it's also about devoted to making things work. So anything that I'm going to try to do, I can't quit.
Oh my gosh. And if you think about it, like you set yourself up a tough situation when your kids were young and you said, I will make it work. I will make it work. And you thrived. You really did. And you have kids who thrive. So, I mean, like, because I really do think our children, like kind of tell us how we're doing. So far, so good.
So far, so good. The line that really resonated with me was it says, this archetype also manifests as a talent for engineering everyday situations or designing solutions to common dilemmas. And I just feel like it should be the engineer, the architect, builder, schemer, and fireman. Because I feel like I'm just putting out fires.
There's a fire right behind you.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's why I loved that archetype. Because I felt like it really made sense to me.
And it's so awesome in the home because that makes perfect sense, right?
I mean, it doesn't say housekeeper. I can tell you that. We're going to make sure that the camera is facing this way because, I mean, I am truly loved. And right now, I could probably open a gift store right here.
That's awesome.
I just want to mention one thing. If anybody is watching this and they want to do this, it's sacred contracts. We put the thing in. You can, if you want us to talk about, maybe because we're still not done, we got a ways to go, to talk about something that you have in a house or an archetype that you have in a house and you're confused about what it means, you could certainly put it out in the questions next week and we could definitely take a look at it.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool.
I love that too.
Oh, we know what time it is. Donna, shuffle them up. It's time for the cards, Kim. Round and round and round she goes. Where she stops?
Because I know you have to go.
Only Kim knows.
Okay. Stop.
Perfect. Getting so good at this. Abundance.
Oh, I'm doing my manifesting thing. I have on my Supercharger Mindset group. Started a 30-day Master Your Mindset, and I'm all manifesting. So if you're interested, join that group.
So how do they do that? Just tell everybody. So they just go right onto your Facebook?
You can go on my Facebook, Kim Mazzella, or go to my Facebook group, which is, if you can find a group, it's Supercharge Your Mindset, and just ask to join, and I'll have you join.
Supercharge your mindset, not supercharger.
No, yeah, supercharged your mindset.
Okay.
And it is a great group. You always have all these great videos up. It's real. It's so worth it. You put so much content out there.
Trust her. Trust.
Oh my goodness. Like, that's so awesome.
So you got trust and abundance. So just trust it.
Trust in that abundance.
I know. Kim Mazzella, you're amazing. I don't know if you're like strong on that 9 o'clock, but that's why I said it. I was like, I'm not
9:01. We're good. We're going to cut out here early. Okay, here we go. I'll make it quick. Stop.
Okay, ready?
Yes, I am.
Balance.
Okay.
Which we know. Children.
Keeps coming up, baby. It's got to happen soon. What in the name of God are we waiting for? God's manifesting. Just drop them off at my porch. Just drop them off on the porch.
Drop them off. Anybody that has a baby.
Anybody that has a child that they're really pissed at right now, I'll take them. I'll be a really good mom.
All right. Let's just see. I let the universe. I didn't even really think. I just blindly did it. So let's see what it says. Friendship. Love that.
Nice.
And ideas and inspiration. You ladies are always filling me with ideas and inspiration. I want to say thank you to everyone that's watched and has continued to watch. Please go to our YouTube page and subscribe, like, and share. And Sherry Freed said that you can have all of her students, Tracy. So I want to say thank you so much, everyone. It is us, your Manifesting Queens. It's Manifesting Monday on Practical Magic. Thank you so much, Kim Mazzella and Tracy Locke. I'm Donna V. And we'll see you next Monday night at 8 p.m. where we'll continue the conversation of the archetypal wheel.
Bring your wheels.
Bring your wheels, kids.